Yes, we are. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Mark's morning business check-in. It's a cold Tuesday morning. A bit of frost on the ground if you're in Dublin. London is not too bad, and Paris is a bit warmer. So just be careful when you're out there. And this is not your morning weather forecast, but as I said, it's frosty out there. It's cold, but it's a lovely morning. It's still a lovely bright morning, which is fantastic. Which is absolutely fantastic. So thanks for joining me this morning. This morning I want to talk about having a plan. Having a plan when you buy or take over another company. And I give you a very simple story. One of the first times I took over a company, we did a management buyout of an advertising agency, and we spent months buying this company, and we spent months putting the whole deal together to buy this company, which was fantastic. It's very exciting when you're buying another company. It's very exciting when they accept your offer, and it's very exciting putting the whole deal together. There is times during the whole process that we thought the whole thing might fall apart. The other side of the management buyout wasn't the main person. Didn't really want to sell, but they were at an age that they knew they had to sell, and they knew if anything happened to them, that the value of the business would drop to the floor, because in a way they were the business and their personality and their image was the business. So we're having spent about 9 months putting together the deal to buy this business. As I said, it nearly fell apart, but we spent many hours every single day making sure everything was right, going through the figures, going through all the legal documents, and my God, there's some amount of legal documents, and putting all that together. And when it came to the day of buying the company, everyone had to meet in our solicitors. So everyone had to come into our firm of solicitors to sign the documents. Now, we spent all day, and I'm talking about from about 8:30 in the morning to about 6 o'clock that evening, where maybe 20 minutes for a break, signing documents all day, signing everything from change of ownership, change of bank account, warranties, agreements, new employment contracts for the people who we are buying out, and all types of stuff. We had to sign an awful lot of paperwork before we took control of that company at 6 o'clock that evening. So as I said, we were signing a lot of paperwork, and at one stage, about 15 people in the room, all signing stuff, and then the bank had to come in, and the bank had to make sure their solicitor that we had signed everything before they handed over the check for the initial payment of £3 million. So that took time to do. And then when it was all done, fantastic. The whole deal was done, and we all went home. I was exhausted because I wasn't just exhausted from that day. I was exhausted that over the previous 9 months, there's been a lot of false starts, a lot of stops, a lot of goes, and an awful lot of challenges that we had to face. So finally, we got the deal done, which was fantastic. But here's the thing about the plan. The next morning, when I went into that company, and the rest of my new team weren't coming in right away, because they had only begun the process of giving notice in their jobs they were at the moment, where I just had already decided I was leaving that day. And because I was managing another company, the best thing for me was to leave that day. But when I arrived into the company that I now owned, with 60 staff, turning over 19 million, I didn't have an office. There was no allocated space. My office for the first few weeks was in the boardroom. And the one thing I always remember when I walked into that company that morning was I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. Because the previous people who owned the company were still there, because part of the deal was they would stay on for a number of months to help me take over the business and get entrenched or integrated into the business, or whatever, or onboarded, or whatever phrase you want to give it. But it took time. That took time. But I always remember going into that office that morning, fantastic suit on. I looked at me in the books. I just paid £3 million to this company. I'm standing in reception, give him my name. Gave him my name, saying, hi, it's Mark Beggs. And they knew me. They knew me. And yet some of them didn't know that I was now their new boss. But I didn't have a plan for after I took over the company. I didn't have a plan for day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And in any other company that I was involved in taking over or managing buy-ins and managing buyouts, I always said, everyone has a plan of how they're going to take over the company. Everyone has a plan on how they're going to raise the finance and manage that takeover. But very few people have a plan for day 1 when they go in there. I didn't have a plan. Like I didn't have a plan to talk to all the staff. I didn't have a PA to help me yet. Yes, I was a signature on the bank, but I hadn't met any clients yet or any customers yet. As I said, I hadn't even got an office yet. So I didn't have a plan. And it took 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks for me to start to get my feet underneath the table of going through the different elements that I needed to go through. Really, when I went in there on the first day, I should have brought all the staff together to tell them that now I was the owner. And the old owner, even though the old owner was still sitting in what would be my office, which was the managing director's office, he was still sitting in that. And by default, when you sit in that office, psychologically, the staff still think you're the boss. So really on day 1, I should have moved him to the boardroom and I should have taken over that office to make the statement loud and clear. I am now the new boss. Because it was my money I was now having to repay. I just spent £3 million on a £5 million deal to take over this company. And we hadn't even got a press release ready about to take over. Because it was a big thing taking over that company. So we hadn't got a plan on how we're going to work from day 1. As I said, we should have got all the staff together. I should have been going through every single line of the P&L account and the balance sheet and starting to put into practice the cuts and the improvements I wanted to make, and I had been planning for the last 9 months. And the funny thing is, I knew I needed to get rid of certain people. I knew I needed to change the process on how people are operating. I knew I had to bring in some new ideas and creativity around the sales approach and how we go and find new customers. I knew all that, but I didn't have the plan for doing that. And that's the key thing here. Just because you know during your takeover period what you're going to do, unless you have a physical plan of what you're going to do, it may not happen. And you can't be like me, wandering around, wondering where I'll sit my backside and what will I call my office. Because as word leaked out that I'd taken over the business, people were starting to come in and say, well done, congratulations. And they were looking for me in the boardroom. And then the company still had to continue its business. So if anybody needed a boardroom, which they did 2 or 3 times that day, for meetings or for presentations, I went to the local coffee shop. I went to the local coffee shop with my mobile phone to make calls and do stuff. So I was being forced out of that business into a coffee shop, even though I just paid £5 million for the business, but the initial payment was £3 million. So I paid this money, and I should have been in my office upstairs, but the old MD was still there. So there was no plan in place. And the people who were already in the company before I came in, they didn't have a plan. They didn't want a plan. They were happy with the way things are going, which was grand. But I did need that make certain things happen. I did need to make people aware inside and outside the business that I was a new owner. I should have had an email, a welcome email or a hello email ready to go out to all the customers and all the main key stakeholders in those businesses, from our customers and suppliers, inform them of the management buy-in. But I didn't have that ready. No, wasn't ready. Wasn't ready to go. And that's a mistake. That's a huge mistake people make when they take over companies. And that's a huge mistake people make when they buy companies. So if you're looking to grow your business and you've decided, maybe you've listened to one of our other podcasts or one of our other shows on YouTube, where I spent the morning talking about growing your business by taking over someone else. It's important that when you have decided to take over someone else, the banks will ask for cash flows. Or whoever who's lending you the money, if you need money, will ask for cash flows, a business plan, all that type of stuff. But the minute you sign the deal, they're no use. They go out the window unless you have a plan for kicking off on day one. If you have that plan, what you're going to do? Are you going to go into the company, take control of the checkbook, take control of the payroll, know who's getting paid and when? Take control of the balance sheet. What customers owe us money? When are they due to pay? What customers are behind in payment? What new business is in the pipeline? What new business are we pitching for? What's the value of that new business? How is that new business coming in? Where are we in that? What new business have we tendered for, government-wise? Where are we in that process? All this type of stuff. It's the taxes of the business. You already should know this question because you're just taking over, up to date. When's the next payment for the VAT, for the PSI, PAYE, whatever? You need to come in and have a plan from day one to get control of the key drivers of that business. And from day one, the staff in that business need to know you're now the boss and you're now running that company. And whether this is a company turning over £100,000, £1 million, or like the one we took over, £19 million, it makes no difference. You need to have that plan. That plan looks the same no matter who you're taking over. Because if you decided that you're taking over someone and you're going to only have one accounts department, I mean, maybe you're going to merge it with your own business. Maybe you're merging two businesses together. Well, the way you raise the finance was showing someone what your plan is to reduce costs, reduce overheads, and make the whole thing more streamlined. Well, that plan needs to start on day one. The problem is an awful lot of people have the talk, they have the presentation, they have the PowerPoint, they have all that stuff that they present to people trying to raise the money, but they don't have it ready to go, the action plan on day one. It's just not ready. And I've seen many people 4, 5, 6, 7 months into a takeover, and maybe where they're merging two businesses, and they still have two accounts departments, and they still have two sales forces, and they still have two credit controllers. And they will give excuses saying, well, it's taking longer than we thought because we don't want to disturb those customers, or we want to make sure we do this properly. That's rubbish. You need to get in there and start putting your plan into place. The reality is, one credit controller is all a business needs. Once you email customers and you visit the key customers right away and show them who you are and what you're about and why you're taking over, and that the level of service of the quality of the product will not diminish with your takeover. In fact, it will get better because you have a lot of stuff in the pipeline that's going to make your service to them 10 times better, or your product offering 10 times better. But you need to get out there and knock on the doors. But the amount of times I've seen businesses still running the new company they've taken over as two separate businesses 6 months down the road, it's madness. It really is. You need to have that plan from day one. So if you're taking over a business, if you're merging the business, if you're doing a manage and buy-in or manage and buyout, you need to make sure you don't just have the plan to buy the business. You need to have that plan from day one when it becomes your responsibility, and all the staff within that business become your responsibility. You need to have a plan to take control and to run it and to start making the changes that you had envisaged that you wanted to make to improve the quality of the business, to make it more efficient, to make it more profitable, and to increase turnover. Have that plan ready from day one. And that's really important. Really, really important that you have that plan ready from day one. Okay, folks, thanks for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. Don't forget now, we have a fantastic interview now with Tara Fay up on our YouTube site at Mind's Eye Education. Tara is one of the leading wedding and international event planners in the world. And I've known Tara since about 1995. So Tara, so if you're thinking about getting married and you're thinking about you may need a wedding organizer, listen to my podcast on my interview with Tara. And she talks about running a business and the challenges of running a business and finding the skill sets that she needed to run the business and finding the right people and the type of attention you need to give. The type of business that she runs, especially around weddings, you only have one shot on getting everything right on the day. You only have one chance to make sure the wedding goes off without any problems. And being a wedding planner is a highly stressed, but you need to be extremely well organized, and your team needs to be very well organized. So Tara has people from Ireland and from all over the world coming to have their weddings here in Ireland, and she also does international events. She's been doing this for about 20 years. And as I said, she's one of the top wedding planners and event organizers in the world, and she's been involved. And Martha Stewart has written about Tara and how she and the level of customer service that she gives. So she's known internationally. So make sure you listen to that podcast with Tara, one of the leading female entrepreneurs in Ireland. Make sure you listen to that podcast, or you see it on our YouTube channel at Mind's Eye Education. And if you're looking for the podcast, just go to everywhere you get your podcasts and just type in Mark Beggs. Just type in Mark Beggs. And don't forget, do follow us on TikTok, do follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the follow button or subscribe button, because that way, every time we put up new stuff, free stuff, you'll get a notification. And we have more great interviews coming from more leading entrepreneurs and business people that I think you're going to find fascinating. So the one with Tara is now up, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm back tomorrow morning, usual time, 7:30 a.m. If you need any help, advice, as I told you before, it's very simple. All you have to do is buy me a coffee. It costs you €4. Buy me a coffee, and we'll have a chat for about 40 minutes to see, can I help you in your business? If I can't, I can't. If I can, I'll tell you how I think I can. So it's only going to cost you €4. Accept the cost if you're in the States or you're in one of my friends in Finland or Germany or Norway, then we'll do a virtual coffee. So just reach out to me. It's markbeggs@gmail.com. So markbeggs@gmail.com. If you need to talk to me, if you need to have a chat with me, that is no problem. As I said, make sure you hit the follow button on TikTok. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. And let's keep in touch and we see how things go. Take care. Have a great day. I'll talk to you all again tomorrow morning.